Hey, beloveds. It is Dr. Tad with your dailyish freebie. Taking a ride out on this beautiful evening and wanted to pop in on part 2 of my story. This is Domestic Violence and Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I am a survivor of both. And for the dailyish freebie, my offer is to focus on domestic violence awareness because there are so many layers, and it's one of the most challenging things to address because of its dynamics, and it's so multifaceted, and it happens to anyone, no matter age, gender, race, religion, creed. It's one of the most challenging epidemics that we have, silent epidemics that we have. So I continue to share my story. Not everybody can share their story because of for safety reasons, and I share my story. It is a risk, and I pray that wherever this fire engine is going, that everyone is okay. It is a risk, and I am willing to take the risk if it will save a life. So on part 1, I talked about how I was in a space, and not victim blaming. That was my disclaimer. I was in a space where I didn't love myself, honor myself, and I ended up being in a relationship thinking that it was full of unconditional love and support. It was unorthodox. The person that I chose to marry, was different, and I accepted that, and I was grateful until I was not. All of the nice gestures were beautiful until they were not, and they became very possessive, and then it was verbal abuse, and then physical abuse and spiritual abuse. So as I was in the relationship, I didn't know I was in a domestic violent relationship. I thought we were having challenges, like, people in relationships have challenges. And because he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, I wanted to help. I loved him, and I wanted to help him, and I did not want to, leave him. I made excuses for his behavior. I was like, oh, if you just go to the doctor, stay on your meds, everything will be well. And it wasn't. My family, I should have listened to my family. My family didn't care for him. And my family is very supportive of me. Extremely supportive. And I would always make excuses. And I wanted to fix it. I wanted to fix him. I wanted to fix our relationship. I wanted to stay married. I wanted to be in a committed relationship. All the things that I wanted. And it just got really, really violent to the point where he was physically abusive. I managed to call 911 from my flip phone just to put things in perspective in time. You know how I used to hold the 9 button down and it would call 911. I managed to do that in the midst of a tussle, and the police came and knocked on my door, and I opened the door, got to the door because he knew it was the police, so he couldn't stop me from going to the door. And I go to the door, I let the police in, they see the slight bruises on my neck, and they arrest him. And out of fear and other things, I bailed him out, because statistics show that it takes 7 times for a person to leave their domestic violent relationship or intimate partner relationship. And so I bailed him out. I didn't know what would happen if he got out. I was worried about my children. I was worried about my family. I, again, wanted to fix it, and I bailed him out. So upon bailing him out, things didn't get better. Um, things, it's that cycle, right? You have kind of like, and it's not so cyclical where it's in order all the time, but just to paint the picture for you, this the honeymoon phase, everything is great. Then things start to tense up, and then the violence begins. Then it's the I'm sorry, and then it's the honeymoon, and then we continue this vicious cycle over and over and over. So when I bailed him out, um, you know, we were good for a minute or two. And then things, got violent again. So, this happens over time. So I'm telling bits and pieces of my story, because what I want beloveds to understand, that domestic violence, it's not just this easy fix, right? It's not an easy fix. It's not something that you end and that's it. The ending is just the beginning of the healing process of staying safe, so on and so forth. So when I bailed him out, we decided to move to Atlanta, because I was gonna go to seminary, and he was a trucker, so he would make all the money, and I would move to Atlanta to go to seminary and focus on school. And then shit hit the fan. So my time is just about up, and I'm about to get on the highway, and I probably shouldn't be doing this while I am driving on the highway. I was just on local streets. But please, continue to pray for those, or I'm asking you to pray for those, and to have some grace and some mercy and compassion for those who are in domestic violence relationships. And there are times when we do have to do the work of self-reflection of, how did I get here? And not to victim blame, or because I don't care how much you don't love yourself, or you struggle with self-esteem, or you could be the biggest bitch in the world. It doesn't matter. No one has a right to put their hands on you, to verbally abuse you, to keep you away from your family and your friends, and to spiritually abuse you and start pulling out scripture to justify their behavior. None of that. So please let me end with that caveat. But I ask that you offer some empathy, which leads to compassion for those who are in domestic violent relationships and need to get out. And it's not easy. So I'll see you tomorrow for part 3. Bringing light to domestic violence and Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's Dr. Tad with your dailyish freebie, and I'm out. Later.